Hello, and welcome to the digital edition of Copenhagen Fashion Week for Winter 21. I'm Alec Leach. I'm a consultant and the founder of Future Dust, which is an Instagram space for responsible fashion. And today, as part of the Small Talk, Big Conversation series of panels, we're going to be looking at the impact Nordic design and Nordic fashion has had on the American market. Joining me today are three experts and industry professionals in the American market who also happen to be enthusiasts and fans of Nordic design. So, from New York, we have Rupal Patel, who is the fashion director of Saks Fifth Avenue. Also from New York, we have Nick Wooster, fashion consultant. And all the way from LA, where it's very early in the morning right now, we have Tommy Fazio, who is the fashion director of NuOrder. So to kick things off, Nick, when was it that you first noticed that Nordic fashion was starting to really gain traction in the American market?
Well, I think it's really been a function of the 2000s, but I really think that in the 90s, Helmut Lang and Jill Sander paved the way for simple design in fashion and something clean, and it sort of dovetailed into things like Common Project sneakers, Kinfolk magazine, and today I think it's the perfect antidote to a lot of the loud logos that you see throughout the market.
Okay, so from your view, actually a lot of those really iconic minimalist designers from Jill Sander, of course, wasn't American, but Helmut Lang really kind of, I suppose, prepared the American market for the Nordic aesthetic.
I do. I mean, I think, like the laws of physics, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And so I think that whenever there's a Baroque or a really fancy idea out there, there's always someone interested in something clean and pared down. So I guess, the two have to work in concert, hand in hand.
Great. And Tommy, when you look back, is that how you kind of see things going as well?
Yeah, my take on the simplistic design that comes from the Nordic region, I look back at the Helmut Langs and, I spent many years at Calvin Klein, and I really do believe that Calvin took a lot of his DNA from the Nordic design, the simplicity, the sophistication, the understated elegance of it. So it stems from the mid-century furniture all the way to, I think, the early 2000s when we started to see it really. We can see the influence in America. So yeah, I really do believe that.
And Rupal, what's your take on that?
Well, it's interesting because I think, when we think about Copenhagen Fashion Week in particular, social media really helped to bring some of these indie brands and underground designers to the forefront. And it was amazing to sort of see that, yes, there was a very minimal, simplistic aesthetic to the design, but with some of these emerging brands, Steen Goya, Gani, Remain, to name a few, we also started to see more of this whimsical, feminine girlishness that was coming out of Copenhagen as well. So I feel that there's a duality within the culture, and I think as times are changing, that's also what made it so attractive as well. It was multifaceted as time started to evolve.
Right. And so Nick, you've traveled, or back when travel was allowed, you've traveled a lot with work, and you've seen fashion in cultural capitals everywhere. But what is it about the fashion and the style from these Nordic countries in particular that you think has really resonated with American consumers?
Well, I think it's the honesty. I think there's a certain, as we've been using the word simplicity, but there's an honesty to, all things Nordic. The idea of a Nordic sweater is very cozy, which I think dovetails and speaks to where we are today, that you need that embrace, that warm embrace. And because I think the culture is so cold, literally, it's a way of, feeling good about yourself. And I think that that's an important part of life. And certainly it's been brought to the, to the fore this past year.
Rupal, is that something that you've noticed as well with your clients at Saks?
No, absolutely. I think, when we started to bring in some of the brands, I think there was just an incredible reaction. Our customers loved the design aesthetic, but I think there's also something more than just the clothing. I think it's, the lifestyle that's been built into the brand, the codes, and the design aesthetic. It's everything from the clothes to, the way the stores are designed, to the showroom, to the way things are displayed. There's a seduction that happens that is really alluring. It's really different from what we see from American designers, or for that matter, some of the other European designers out there.
Do you think, if for a second we could just imagine that we're in Saks right now, do you think when you're a Saks customer, do you think that difference between the Nordic brands and the American brands, do you think that's something that you can really tell from the outside when you're a consumer, or is it something that's a bit more kind of subtle, Rupal?
No, I think our teams really, I think you see it clearly. I think our teams really do such a great job in editing the collections to really reflect the designer's personality and aesthetic. And I do feel, again, I think there's something about the proportion, there's something about the fabric. I think also the accessibility is something I really appreciate about, the Copenhagen designers or the Scandi designers, in the sense that it's accessible to so many customers, so many body types, so many shapes. And I think these days that's very important.
Sure. And Nick, how about you? When you think of the menswear market, do you think on the outside the difference between, say, an American label and a Nordic label, do you feel like it's obvious to the consumer, or is it again something that's quite kind of subtle and in the background?
I mean, in menswear, I do think in general things are more subtle. So I do think sometimes it's people have to investigate. They won't necessarily see from the outside, but when they do put something on, they can feel, a real difference. I mean, just in talking about Rupal's point about the countries in general, I think the other outstanding feature is the light. The light is so different there. And I think in these Nordic countries, and I feel like that permeates everything, color choices, and also the kinds of fabrics that are used.
Right. Well, Tommy, give us your perspective there.
It's very much, when he talked about the light, I think in general, the noise of fashion that can be so noisy and so colorful and so overwhelming. When you get to the Nordic countries or you get to the Scandi countries and you look at when you land, the first thing you know is the light. The light is so different and is so special. But there is a sophistication about not only their designs and the simplicity of their designs, the simplicity and the seduction of their food. Rupal mentioned retail, the stores. The stores are super sexy. You walk through their stores, they're simple, there's no noise, you can see the beautiful clothes, and they have such attention to detail and just the warmth and the love that goes along with it, because there can be a tendency to be sort of coldness to, sort of simplicity and sophistication, but they make it very warm and very loving. And they live it through, like we said, architecture, food, their museums, their retail stores, even their homes. Their homes are just, it is a beautiful place. And what I love is that we're able to sort of be influenced by that sophistication.
Just on your point for retail, this one's for all of you guys. Like, if we could just for a moment fantasize that Fashion Week was happening right now and we were in Copenhagen, what for you guys would be the must-see stores in Copenhagen to go to? Nick, I can see there's some.
Well, I think Nick might.
Nick, you might be the best one for this.
Well, here's the thing. So, and it's really embarrassing. I've never been to Copenhagen. So I'm dying to go. I really would like to visit. But and I'm actually hesitating because now I can't remember if this store is in Sweden, in Stockholm, or if it's in Copenhagen. But I think it's in Copenhagen. But there's this amazing jewelry brand called All Blues. And when I was in Dover Street Market in Tokyo a year ago, there was this, they had set up this display with this yellow, I don't know, thing, and they were taking scans of your body. What they did was so they asked me to do it, and they took a scan of my this part of my body up, and they made a sterling silver bust for me that's like a little piece of jewelry. And then they make jewelry. They just opened the most beautiful store that I have seriously ever seen. It's so spare, and it so speaks to, you know, the existing old architecture, and then it's something completely modern. And that to me sums up the whole Nordic aesthetic and the whole Nordic idea, which to me is very appealing. And it's not like anywhere else.
RuPaul, when you look at the buy that you guys have at Saks, like to pick up from Nick's point about really like encapsulating that Nordic spirit, what brands that you guys have on the shop floor at Saks really kind of sum that kind of spirit up, do you think?
Well, I think Ganni was one of the first brands we launched at Saks in 2017. And, you know, it really took our customers by storm. And I think, again, just, you know, the fashion world where great color, as Nick and Tommy both talk about fabric and light, you know, very light, very airy. And this, you know, I like the word layers, you know, the idea of really being able to build upon a wardrobe where it's not just about one piece or one look or aesthetic, but really opening it up. But I think when you see like the whimsy and the playfulness of Steen Goya or Remain or Munth, or, you know, you think of you know, it's not just a top. It's about the proportion of the sleeve, the volume in the waist. I think that's something that, you know, you can see the design elements really encompassing that. So when I think about our buys, I think one of the things that really is very important that the team has done is make sure that every single brand that comes in is able to maintain its identity, and that we're able to bring forth the aesthetic of, you know, the collection to our customers, not with just a few pieces, but really well represented.
Great.
Because that's what the customers are looking for these days, I think, to have that full experience.
Great. That's a really important point. Tommy, just to pick up on that point, if, you know, RuPaul has been talking about these Nordic brands coming into the American market. From your perspective, how have you seen the American market then reflecting what's been coming in from the Nordic countries?
Well, I think one of the brands from the Nordic region that's made a big influence in fashion and retail here in America is Acne. I mean, they do a full breadth of a collection, and they're able to sort of, I would say, hit on every point of a lifestyle. If you go into their stores are designed very simple, they're very modern, they're very clean, and what really stands out are the clothes. So I think that Acne has really made a impact on Nordic brands coming to the US and how they're then shopped and how they're then viewed. I'm not sure if Saks Fifth Avenue has an Acne, but it's a brand that... Oh, exciting. It's a brand that I love. I mean, I love their aesthetic. I mean, they are so far ahead of all Americans in technology and design and fabrication and fit. And I think that they do the best job coming out of the region as far as fashion is concerned and as far as retailing is concerned. As a single brand.
When you think of a brand like Acne, or as RuPaul was saying, Ganni, have you seen that their aesthetic and their design style has then inspired American brands themselves, Tommy?
Oh yes, I've seen Nordic influence in lots of collections. Lots of collections that there's sort of the American aesthetic with a little bit of Nordic influence, and it's that real sophistication pared back, color influence very much so. I see a lot coming from when I view collections to come onto NuOrder. We look at all the collections, obviously, but I do definitely see that James Purse has really got that edge that's happening, and he's really bringing on that sort of pared down simplicity, especially in his home design. And you do see it across some of the denim brands now that Acne's made such a big splash here in America. You start to see the simplicity and the sophistication in our denim world.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about guys on the streets of New York, do you see that happening a lot as well, where guys in New York are taking inspiration from the Nordic market?
Is that
I
a
do. I
question
mean,
for me?
oh, sorry.
But after Nick, we'll get straight to you, Tommy. Don't worry.
No, that's okay, because I haven't been to New York in a while.
I'm going to jump on you. No, but I think that because, fashion has evolved in such a way that technical outerwear is such an important part of, the lifestyle experience, and people have moved away, or it's moving. I mean, I think it is moving back to, but it's kind of moved away for a while from sort of traditional. That the combination of those things is a very Nordic approach, using technical outerwear as sort of a fashion statement. I mean, even Bernie Sanders, like, it's just that thing last week that is a Nordic idea to me, or it's in how I have it in my head. And I think that's what's filtered down the most.
And Tommy, when you think about LA, how do you see that filtering down on the streets of LA as well?
Yeah, sorry. We here in Los Angeles get very few chances to wear outerwear. Today being one of them, actually. It's only 45 degrees here today. When you do get a chance to see it, it is very technically designed. I guess is the way. That was a hard one to say early in the morning. But you do see that sort of technical influence that comes from the Nordic region. We don't have the breadth of outerwear here, but when you see it, you see really beautiful fabrics and beautiful, very, very much what Helmut Lang did back in the early days. Simple, sophisticated, and functional.
Rupal, of course, like for retail, this has been like a really, really unprecedented year. But when you think back at 2020, do you feel like the thinking about our lives in lockdown and how we've had so many things constricted, do you feel there's something about the simplicity and the honesty of Nordic design that started to kind of make even more sense, perhaps, to American consumers?
Oh, absolutely. I think it started, even like a year ago. I think this, this take of how to embrace cold weather and winter months and make it cozy, that was something that was emerging. And when lockdown happened, I think this idea of less is more. We all went into this less is more, simplicity, ease, cozy. These words keep coming up, and we're in pre-fall collections right now, and men's fall, and this feeling of cozy and comfort and cocoon keeps coming up over and over again. And I think that this, trends take time to build. It doesn't just happen. And I think it was leading into it. So when the time happened, people were really sort of ready for that. And I think we're seeing it, we're living it. We're all living it today as we speak. So, but I think that's the interesting thing when we talk about Scandi style and Copenhagen and the fashion week and the designers and the aesthetic. It's not a trend. This is part of the heritage. This is part of Nordic roots, Nordic culture that, again, goes in everything. You go into a restaurant and it's about everything from the food you're eating to the furniture, from the silverware to the napkin that you're using, to the surroundings around you. So it's been there. I think it was just when the world decided to take notice and really have it start influencing us.
Is that the sort of thing that you could imagine happening as well, Tommy? That now, lockdown and with the sort of so much restraint that we've had on us, can you imagine
very much
Nordic?
Very much so. So 2020 has kept us in captivity, has kept us home, right? So the idea of nesting and creating this, we were all worried about what we all needed to have the thing to go out. Now it's about having your home. It's about being comfortable and being sort of inspired while you're home, sometimes alone or sometimes with your family, but inspiring your home and cleaning up and some sophistication and sort of the sexiness about Nordic design in the home. And the peacefulness and the mindfulness of Nordic design. gives your home I think, a whole new look and feel. And I see a lot of that now. I see a lot of the way people have pared down their dressing, pared down their homes, made their homes very comfortable, made their homes places where they could actually be for 24 hours a day, as we all have been. So yes, I very much see that trend in the cocooning and the nesting and the sort of, it's been a part of Scandinavia for so many years because of, number one, of their weather and their timing and the very short amounts of sun during the winter. So their homes are quite important to them, and that's where that attention to detail comes from.
That's a really important point. Nick, when you think about the future, can you imagine guys, when they're getting dressed in the coming year, that maybe they'll be leaning a bit more towards this kind of really pared back, really comforting kind of mentality that is so common from the Nordic countries?
I do, because I think, what Rupal had said, and it's certainly my experience of living in LA, layers become really important. And so easy, clean pieces that can sort of go together. It's a great way to travel and pack. But this idea of a shell on the outside and something warm and cozy on the inside, and it can be fleece, it can be, a sweater. But I do think that those cozy pieces are more vital than ever.
Got it, for sure. I can totally see that happening too. Just because we're starting to run out of time a little bit, let's just go around and quickly, if you guys could pick one brand from the Nordic territories that you feel really kind of encapsulates the spirit of that region, what would it be? Tommy, how about you? You go first.
Acne, for sure.
Nick?
Oh, sorry. I have to go with all blues. I'm not a jewelry person at all, but there's something so beautiful about jewelry that it's really exquisite and it's really different. And so it got my attention.
That almost kind of sums up Nordic design in a way. Like, it's something that you wouldn't normally consider, but it's presented in such a honest and effortless way that you've kind of become a bit of a convert there. Rupal,
Yeah.
what do you? If there's one brand that really encapsulates the Nordic kind of aesthetic, what is it for you?
That's hard for me to answer. It's like, which child you love the most, But I can I pick two, because I think they're so different and they illustrate. I think Acne, as Tommy and Nick have both said, definitely I think we're one of the leaders and visionaries on bringing Scandi style global. I have them personally in my wardrobe, from knits to shearlings to pants to denim. And I think that has a very pared down style. But I think Gani also, really represents a whole other aesthetic to this, to this world, which is colorful, playful, novelty, whimsical. That we're talking about the light and the darkness. I think, for me, Gani, another personal favorite that I have many pieces in my wardrobe from, really, I think also is the flip side to the stark minimalism that we see at times.
Great. So just to sum up, guys, if you could sum up Nordic style in one word real quick, what would that word be? Tommy, you're up first.
Simplicity.
Simplicity. Nick?
Clean.
Rupal?
Effortless.
Great. Clean, effortless. There we go. So thank you so much for taking part here, and thank you so much for watching, everybody. This has been the Fall Winter digital edition of Copenhagen Fashion Week. Small talk, big conversations. Thank you again, and everybody stay healthy. Goodbye.
Oh, thank you so much. Stay well and safe.
Bye.
Nice to see everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.